Welcome to Executives After Hours. This is your host, Dr. James Kelly, the author of The Crucible's Gift, 5 Lessons from Authentic Leaders Who Thrive in Adversity. So go pick it up. Also note that starting late June, I am driving across America with my family from Philadelphia through DC, over to St. Louis, Chicago, Denver, everything in between there, San Francisco, Calgary, Canada, Portland, Oregon, and Seattle. So the whole U.S. So anyone who watches this, or you know anyone who's looking for a speaker or a 3-hour seminar on adversity and leadership, please reach out to me at james@drjameskelly.com. That is drjameskelly.com. All right, today's topic. Today's topic is actually brought to you by Rick Bortello. And Rick, last week was on my YouTube channel, and we were going back and forth. And he had a great question that just sent me down this rabbit hole of trying to understand. What's the impact on a follower when they perceive the leader as being inauthentic? And so this really comes out of the leader-follower, literature, if you will, leader-follower exchange. And so as I started to kind of go down this rabbit hole, there's something I wanted to be clear about that can be perceived as, let's put it that way. And so in academia, if you're doing quantitative measurement of someone's authenticity, and in the academic literature, it tends to be measured by an authentic leader is authentic when they have high self-awareness, balanced processing, looking at both sides of the equation, moral integrity, and relational desires, or to have formed relationships. And so, in my book, I define that a little bit differently, but nonetheless, I add compassion, I add learning mindset as part of the overall equation of what's an authentic leader. So, okay, that being said, when we measure that, we usually go 1 to 7, 1 being least impactful and 7 being most, or 1 to 5, or something like that. So for authentic leadership, if you take the idea of self-awareness and balanced processing and so forth and so on, someone who scores 7 or close to a 7, a 5, 6, or 7 on those would be seen as being more authentic. Someone who scores a 1, 2 on most of those capacities or factors will be seen as less authentic, or inauthentic, if you will. So it's on a scale of authenticity. And so if a follower perceives a leader as being 1 and 2, then we can infer that they are being seen as not authentic or inauthentic. All right, so taking that on today's topic, I'm looking at an article that's titled "The Congruence of Leader Self-Perceptions and Follower Perceptions of Authentic Leadership, Understanding What Authentic Leadership Is and How It Enhances Employees' Job Satisfaction." So we can look at many different outcomes: job satisfaction, trust, so forth and so on. But today is just job satisfaction. And this is in the Australia Journal of Management, 2014. And it comes from a guy named, gentleman and many of his colleagues, Matej Černa, from the University of, I'm going to kill this, Ljubljana in Slovenia. So hopefully I didn't kill that too bad. I apologize. So Rick, here is my attempt to answer your question. So in this research, I looked at 2 overarching factors. The first factor was the fact that when a follower perceives a leader as being authentic, does their job satisfaction go up? The second factor, which I think was really interesting, is when a leader perceives himself as authentic and a follower perceives the leader as authentic, is job satisfaction at its peak? And so here's what they found. And we have to remember that part of this process is a follower is constructing in their mind what being authentic is, right? I can't, as a leader, tell you if you see me as being authentic. Only you can tell me if you see me as being authentic. So we always have to go from the position of, as a leader, we don't necessarily know if the people around us see us as being authentic. Okay, so here's what they found. When a follower sees a leader that they perceive as being authentic, job satisfaction is high. Now, the caveat, the crazy thing with this was that wasn't how the leader perceives it. So the leader, when they perceive themselves as being authentic, they actually don't have an increase in job satisfaction. There's a decoupling there. So I could be authentic, but I can hate my job. However, if I'm a leader and I'm authentic, and my follower sees me as authentic, there's a greater chance that they're going to have job satisfaction. Now here's where it gets a little bit more interesting. When a leader perceives themselves as being authentic, and a follower perceives themselves as being authentic, you have these 2 lines that converge at the peak of job satisfaction. And so the more that someone perceives themselves as being authentic, and the greater that the follower perceives the leader as being authentic, the stronger and more impactful the job satisfaction is. So to answer Rick's question, we can infer the opposite of that. And so this survey was done, or this research was done, looking at 24 leaders and 171 followers in an organization. And so Rick, to take this and flip it around a little bit, we can then infer the fact that if a leader is seen as inauthentic, then the followers will have less job satisfaction. So that could be one of the potential negative impacts. The other thing that's happening is that there's a social construction going on around what an authentic leader looks like with these followers. So in their mind, we all come with preconceived notions of what authenticity is. So even though academia measures it from the standpoint of self-awareness, balanced processing, relational, and transparency, it doesn't mean that the follower sees it the same way. So what do you do with this if you're a leader in an organization and you're trying to increase job satisfaction? So one of the biggest things that this talks about, and I believe in, is trying to foster relationships with the people around you that are true, that are honest, that are transparent, and are for the betterment of the organization. So if you're a leader and you're struggling a little bit, and I think if you ask yourself if you're authentic and you're not sure, you're probably answering that question already. So I would ask you to take some time, delve into who you are as a person, what you stand for, and how you want to behave in an organization. So when we think about authenticity, we have our internal compass and we have our external shield, if you will. So how we want to manage our reputation, as I spoke about last week, impression management, and how we want to act. So this always tends to start with this idea of what is it I bring to the table that is authentic? And how can I improve my weaknesses that I might have? Maybe it's my communication strategy. Maybe it's the way I frame things. Right now I'm reading a book about how to ask the right questions, the positive questions. Maybe everything you do is a destructive question, not a constructive question. So flip it a little bit. And we can talk about that in another issue. So summarize all of this week. Essentially, when a follower perceives a leader as being authentic, their job satisfaction goes up. And when a leader perceives themselves as being authentic and a follower perceives the leader as being authentic, job satisfaction is actually at its peak in an organization. All right, until next week, check out my YouTube channel. Subscribe to it, please. Share it. What else can you do? Oh, follow me on Twitter, which is at Executives A Hour. Find me on Facebook, Executives After Hours. Get me on LinkedIn. Ask any questions. Respond. I loved it. Thank you so much, Rick, for the question. If you have another one, please send it in. Give it to someone else. I love searching for these topics online in my academic grading world. So, all right, until next week. See you later. Awesome. Thank you.